Welcome back. So today we're going to take a look at the MEMT R1, which I believe is their first IEM, or at least the first IEM that I saw on AliExpress from them. They have some earbuds, but I thought I read the R1 was their first IEM. So this is what it looks like. I got the red and blue version, and you can actually get a nice look at that big dynamic driver. And for those of you who have a few IEMs, you'll probably recognize this shape with a little wing here, which happens to be quite comfortable. I think a lot of people find this comfortable. It doesn't necessarily, it looks like it, this one looks like it sticks out a little bit more than, say, the CCA CA16, but I don't know, it's just kind of a comfortable shape for me. And the back plate, or the face plate, looks pretty much like the TRN M2. It's got this little pearlescent plate on it, kind of nice. QDC connectors. This is the upgrade cable for it that comes with it. The regular cable is actually this black cable, which is the call microphone cable. So it's just a little more tangly. I actually used the silver one because it's much nicer. For $30, this one was sent to me by Keephifi and Woo Easy Store on AliExpress. It's about $29.99, and that price is a very competitive price. You know, there's just a ton of competition, so it really needs to stand out. And I guess one thing they did was really nice packaging. So you get this nice big full color packaging. Inside, if you don't know what MEMT stands for, it's my earphone, my time. And so you get a really nice cardboard and then accessory box. Really nice packaging for $30. Considering to get the KZ packaging that looks even sort of like the ZAX, you're up about $60. So they definitely invested in the packaging for what that's worth. So as I said, it's $29.99 on AliExpress. I think this is another one of these global earphones that's probably cheaper in some parts of the world than on AliExpress. To me, that was a really tough price to set for it because it puts you right in the sights of the Blonde BL03. This is another dynamic driver as well. And they call it a dual dynamic driver, but I think there's actually only one. There may be two rings, which is what they call it, inside that single unit, but it's not what we would typically call two separate drivers. It looks like one single, a larger single to me, but it's kind of hard to tell from the description of what it really is. So let me kind of start off with, this one is sort of like the CVJ CSA for me. Almost positive they sent me the wrong version. This is the Eastern World Global version. The one that has, you know, super bright upper mids. It sounds almost exactly like my CSA, my CVG CSA. It's sort of unbearably bright, and I realized that these global versions are sort of centered, mid-centric, very much centered on female vocals, and that's pretty much what it sounds like. So unfortunately, they've been on vacation, so I didn't have any contact with them to figure out if it was yes or no. But if you look for other reviews on the R1, you'll kind of see the same problem that I have with the CSA. Is one review will say it's nice and warm, nice bassy warm sound, and another one's going to say it's super bright and fatiguing. So unfortunately, I got the fatiguing version, and so I will tell you that I did put tape on it, and we'll kind of get to what that sounds like. It probably sounds like the real version. But pre-tape, it's very bright and unbalanced. It's pretty much all upper mid, and upper mid dominates. It's when people say low volume set, that's exactly what that means. It's you turn the volume up just a hair too much, and your eardrums are going to be, you know, pierced with really high vocals. So I think when I was going through it, fatiguing, I think I mentioned in my notes, fatiguing came up about 5 times. So even some songs which aren't all that fatiguing, Roses, this new Amenbeck remix, that new Sia song, Save My Life, you know, Sia's voice isn't all that, you know, high or fatiguing, but something about where it falls on this set, you know, just kind of pierces you the way it as is. So thin recessed mids, the lower you went, especially with the male vocal, kind of the thinner it went. So, kind of a random male vocal song, Hey Jealousy by Jim Blossoms, it sounds, the vocals are just far back and they're thin. There's just not, I had the same problem with the CSA. There's almost no bass. It's a weird binary situation where if the song has a ton of bass in it, you can hear it fine. If there's anything less than that, there's almost no bass. And it's really hard to listen to music that way because you'll have like 2 songs that sound okay, and the rest of it is just upper and high end. It's just hard to listen to. So female vocals, that's where this is sort of centered around. Sounds okay, it just needs a little warmth. There's just not any bass there at all. And like I said, the sub bass is quite binary, and it's fast, and it's really hard to find the sub bass the way it is, as is. So tried to deal with that for a day or so, kind of put my notes together on that version, and then switched to putting some tape on the nozzle, which brings down the upper mids a lot. I also, using this cable, the silver cable, it's kind of a little more emphasis on the treble as well, because the tape is going to bring back a lot of your bass. All the bass comes back with the tape. And I also went with a much wider bore nozzle to kind of emphasize, get rid of some of that bass that comes through. And I forgot to mention the tips. This is the little bag that comes with it as well, which is a nice little accessory bag. But the tips that come with it, also quite nice. They're kind of actually quite sturdy silicone, but just a little smaller bore than what I was looking for after putting tape on the nozzle. So put some tape on it. Brings down the upper mids a lot. The bass comes through, sub bass comes through. It's still a little fast, but now we're back in balance. Now there's, pretty much this typical chi-fi V-shape sound signature is what you end up with. And that's why I said bringing this guy in at $30 is kind of rough, because you're talking about a sound that sounds similar to a lot of other earphones at that same price. It's got to stand out. It's got to do something special for people to pay for this one versus something else. But what you end up with is something that sounds very traditional balanced V with a very nice warm low end. The mid bass has body now, whereas without tape, it's pretty much a hollow, weird mid bass sound. And the sub bass is there. It's just a bit fast and a little bit lower than the mid bass section. So the mids, can't really get rid of the recessed mids, but at least they sound better. At least there's some bleed there. They sound fuller now. Males don't sound nearly as thin as they did before. You get this warmth from the bleeding. The upper mids can still sound a bit thin and nasal if you get sort of high enough, but not nearly as bad as what it is without the tape. So one thing that happened pre-tape was the vocals were very far in front of everything. They were very, very forward. And so I think part of one of the effects of the tape, everything kind of got closer together, so the vocals aren't nearly as far in front of the bass as they were before, much closer, but you get better separation now because everything's not focused on this upper mid-range. And now you get, sort of delineation between what's higher and what's lower. You get some treble in there. Everything, works together as opposed to everything being smashed together into a much smaller range in that upper section. So, I think just in general from a higher level, it sounds way better to me because I like Western music. Eastern music, probably sounds fine to them. So the treble level, the extension, the detail are actually quite good for $30. I think that's where they should have focused, and that probably would have been part of their marketing message, because it's really actually quite nice how much the level is actually high enough and the extension is far enough and there's enough detail that it can kind of separate itself from the KZ, screechy, metallic. The tonality itself is actually pretty good. So I don't, it sounds good for $30, and but it's hard to deal with the rest of it. So we'll see. So soundstage, Pretty much average, and again, they really should have worked on this a little bit because it's sort of focused between your ears, and the separation and how wide it is, it's okay. It's okay for $30 probably last year. This year, it's kind of tougher to justify having a soundstage like that in 2020, especially at the end of the year after so many really nice IAMs have come out at cheaper prices. So nothing overly wrong with it, but it's just kind of plain average. And to get people to pay $30, I think you have to do something a little better than average at this point in time. So that's it. That's my quick take on the R1. I'll probably have to contact them and figure out what happened with this version, whether there's a Western version or an Eastern version or a global version. Either way, I'm pretty sure I got the wrong one, and maybe we'll sort that out, and perhaps we will not. So again, thank you for tuning in, and I will see you next time.